This is the Sri Ramana Maharshi satsang, a time to listen, reflect, and deeply meditate. Know yourself and be always free and at peace. Welcome. I'm Richard Clarke. I'm hosting this satsang. I'm not a guru or a teacher. Like you, I love this teaching and want to share it. I'm reviewing and commenting on the book Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. Today is on talk number 100. Let me move to the verses. A gentleman from Ambla asked how to reach the heart, and Ramana responded, "Where are you now that you want to reach the heart? Are you standing apart from the self?" The devotee says, "I am in my body." Maharshi, in a particular spot or all over? Devotee, all over. I am extending all over the body. Maharshi, wherefrom do you extend? Devotee, I do not know. And the Maharshi says, yes, you are always in the heart. You are never away from it in order that you should reach it. Consider how you are in deep sleep in the waking state. These states are also not yours. They are of the ego. The consciousness remains the same and undifferentiated all through. Disciple, I understand, but I cannot feel it so. Maharshi, whose is the ignorance? Find it out. Disciple, all this is so difficult. Maharshi, the idea of difficulty is itself wrong. It will not help you gain what you want. Again, I ask, who finds it difficult? Devotee, I see that I am coming round to I. Maharshi, because you are always that and never away from that. There is nothing so simple as being the self. It requires no effort, no aid. One has to leave off the wrong identity and be in his eternal, natural, inherent state. The disciple asks the question, how to reach the heart? And Maharshi responds by asking the question, the disciple, where he is currently standing. That is, what identity is the questioner currently holding to? Maharshi says that if the disciple is standing apart from, as something different from the changeless self, then they are not in the heart. Saying heart, what Ramana is referring to is not any physical heart, but rather the spiritual heart, which is where the being and consciousness that make up our very existence comes from. This is not any physical location. Ramana tells us to look into this. Where does the sense of I come from? The disciple responds that they are in their body, meaning their stand is as a body. He says it's extending all over the body, not in any one place. Maharshi then asks, where is this extending from? To which the disciple admits they don't know. Maharshi then says that they are always in the heart, the spiritual heart, and never away from it. He reminds the questioner to consider deep sleep and the waking state. Maharshi says that these states belong to the ego. They appear and are known by the mind. But consciousness, the one who knows the mind, remains undifferentiated through both waking and deep sleep. Consciousness knows these states, but is not touched by any of them. The disciple admits that while they understand this conceptually, they cannot feel it. It is not his experience. Maharshi then asks the disciple to identify the source of their ignorance. Where does the ignorance come from? The disciple then replies, all this is so difficult. Maharshi continues to drive the questioner's focus within by pointing out that the idea of difficulty itself is just an idea based on a wrong idea of identity. And this idea will not help them reach their goal. Maharshi again asks the disciple to investigate and discover where the idea of difficulty comes from, and to inquire into this idea of identity. The inquiry who finds it difficult can bring the disciple to discard the idea of ego and recognize their own unchanging self. The answer is that the difficulty is just an idea of the mind. And you are not the mind, but rather the knower of the mind. The Upanishads call this the unknown knower of the known. Maharshi says that we are always the self, and that being the self requires no effort or aid. You just are. You don't have to do anything to be, to exist, to know. Instead, you need to leave off your wrong identity and return to your natural, inherent state. The idea that you are a separate individual set off against a separate world is just an idea, an assumption made early in life and never questioned. This dialogue highlights the importance of recognizing one's true identity as the self and letting go of any false identities or attachments. It also emphasizes the simplicity of being the self and the futility of effort in trying to reach it. Maharshi emphasizes the practice of self-inquiry, where you question your own nature and identity, investigating all the ideas of identity that come up, and reaching a deeper understanding of yourself as the unchanging self. This process involves noticing and questioning thoughts, emotions, and experiences, and investigating their source. Do they come from a misidentification where you have taken on some temporary identity? Or are they from the silent, unchanging self? This questioning leads to self-knowledge, where you recognize your true nature as the undifferentiated consciousness. Maharshi guides the disciple towards this understanding by pointing out his false identity as someone with difficulties understanding, and then guiding the disciple to recognize their own sense of self. He encourages the disciple to let go of their egoic identity and return to their natural state as the self, which requires no effort or aid. Maharshi's teachings have had a profound impact on spiritual seekers around the world, inspiring many to practice self-inquiry and reach towards a deeper understanding of their true nature. His teachings continue to be studied and followed by people from all walks of life who seek to live in harmony with their innermost beings and realize their highest potential. So, inquire, know yourself, and be always happy. And now we'll listen to a discourse from my teacher, Nomi, always.
That which you truly are, you are always. Not only is that immutable, it is eternal. What of you is eternal? What has a beginning and an end, a birth and a death? Cannot be your very existence. For existence does not cease to exist at any time. Evidently, that cannot be the body, which has a beginning and an end. If your real nature is bodiless, what is it? What has a beginning and an end? In other words, that which is not eternal is merely a false appearance and not the reality of your being. Who are you? Thought is not eternal. It is momentary. What you are is always. If you are neither the perceptible nor the conceivable, what are you? The Upanishads declare that the self is Brahman. And Sri Bhagavan, Ribhu, Adi Shankara, and others have proclaimed the nature of the self to be Satchidananda, being, consciousness, bliss. If you know yourself, therefore, Brahman knows Brahman, God knows God. To know yourself, inquire deeply within. At the depth of your very existence, who am I? Such inquiry brings a cessation to the imaginary conception of differentiation, such as Jagat Jivapara, the universe, the individual, and the supreme. In the eternal, as the eternal, one finds complete peace and illimitable joy. Such are of your very nature. If you mistake yourself to be a limited embodied individual, then with such misidentification, bondage seems to be, and being bound, the innate happiness appears veiled, and such is a state of suffering. To be free of the suffering, liberate yourself from bondage. To become unbound, cease to misidentify. To cease to misidentify, inquire, who am I? As all forms are seen to perish, the eternal must be formless. Your very existence is formless. What is formless cannot possibly be multiple. Differentiation is only among imagined forms. Thus, if you have a form, or seem to have a form, likewise God and the world. If you are the eternal, pure existence, consciousness, bliss, there is no question of form or of differentiation. There is only one homogeneous, boundless, beginningless, endless, pure existence. and that is what you are. The self is only one. Your existence is invariably singular. There cannot be two selves, an eternal one and a transient one. A real self and a false self. An absolute self, or Brahman, and an individualized self. If you inquire to know yourself, penetrating the very heart of the apparently individualized existence, you will find only Brahman, the absolute self, which is one without a second, for all eternity. The interior, silent, direct experience of this, without cessation, is steady abidance, or true knowledge.
All right, and now let's take a few minutes to inquire and make this knowledge our own experience. Now, you exist, and you know that you exist. Inquire, investigate within yourself. Are you in a body? What would you be? Where would you be? Are you a body? Where is ignorance from? Is it from the mind? Or are you ignorant? Where does ignorance come from? What within you is always? What comes and goes? And what is always? Who am I? What is the nature of my existence? What really exists? All right. And our chant. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace. All right. Comments or dialogue?
It's so beautiful. So beautiful. And know me just in the simplicity of it
Yes.
really leaves you speechless.
Yes. And Nomi was telling us to look for what is always. It seems like it's only been the last few years that I really got that.
Mm.
And, there sure is something that is always. And the more I know that, just the more it makes me happy.
Yeah. Less misidentification.
Mm-hmm.
And the devotee was saying how difficult it is, and Ramana saying it's your nature. How could it be simpler than your nature?
Yes, yes. And how can you not see what is always there? Took me 2 decades after hearing this to do that, though. So I feel like a big dummy.
Oh, that's a blessing. It's a blessing, Richard.
That's right.
Many
Well,
people
I feel
many people never even question anything.
right. That absolutely is correct. It's just that in, many areas of my life, I feel like I'm a smart guy, but in terms of my really learning the deep meaning of what Ramana says, I feel like this mind is like a rock. It's not very quick to learn new things.
Well, it's the unlearning.
That's right. That's right. Anyway, namaste. Good to be with you.
It's good to see you and
Good
look
to see
forward to the
everyone.
next one.
Yes. See you next week. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this Ramana Maharshi video, subscribe, like, and send me a comment.